we just have a look at...
So what you're showing in the 3D is like the equivalent of the black centre of the Mandelbrot's shape. It's the space,
yes.
version.
For the 3D Mandelbrot, we're outside. So you'd be in the, not the inner part, you'd be like kind of outside the 2D Mandelbrot looking into yes, absolutely. And in which case you would see more interesting detail than that smooth wall that I was talking about. But if you were inside, then you'd only see the smooth wall. Interestingly, you can go inside the Mandelbulb, and you're going to do that soon. So that's coming up. But as I was just going to show you, if we just take a typical example, like this one here maybe, even though it looks as though it's multicoloured, if you were to take the edge of that, it would only be a single colour. This is pattern of the iterations, the escape, right? The time it took to escape or not escape. So that's what creates these colours. Okay. Now, if you go to the edge and zoom right in, you will only see a single colour. So because of that, when we look at the 3D version of Mandelbulb, the edge there, the surface will only be, again, a single colour. But again, like I said, there are ways you can change the colours to make it more effective. And in fact, I've done that for some of these, so we can see that later. Well, that's a nice Christmas tree. You might see that soon. So there it is. Again, this is the latest I've replicated. This is one of the first renders I did, where I zoomed in, and it's just at the top. If we go back, you're a bird's eye view. You're sort of looking down from there, and I think it's just this area here, or around this area. Of course, if it's looking down, you'll see past this. See this flat, smooth part here? If you go to the next, that's actually this part here. So it's a bird's eye view for the shape. And then well, I'm going to show you a few more pictures now, because they are quite nice. This one I called Honeycomb Heaven, and it kind of looks a bit like a big heart, but I'm not sure maybe you think that, but I do. And then this one, Ice Cream from Neptune, which is, this one's actually inside the shape. It's not actually outside. Now this time you're inside, and you're looking at detail inside. So that's another one. This was one I rendered only about a couple of weeks ago, actually, and it's something was one of the most interesting objects, or interesting details inside the Mandelbulb. You can see that there's all kinds of detail, and again we're inside. I've added fog, that's just fog there, but we're actually inside the 3D Mandelbulb there.
But so the smooth parts, are they a result of ending the iterations too early, or are there smooth parts on the infinite?
Okay, well, that's a very interesting question. Do you know what the answer is?
We don't know.
Okay. The truth is, I'm going to come to that more later.
Okay, yeah. Then.
But I'm going to remind everyone to listen to what I said. See these smooth parts here. Would we get more detail if we actually increase the iteration? And that's a very interesting question. And I'll answer that later. And there's another one. This is called Mandelbulb Garden. And it's interesting. And you can, if we zoom in, and you can zoom down. All these amazing shapes and patterns. Zoom up and around the place there.
But they all these sub-objects, they have the same, I mean, you seem to have like 6 or 8-fold symmetry of the Mandelbulb, so I guess it's like to the power of 1 plus, I don't mind it, right? This one. It's like rotational symmetry, right?
Rotational symmetry. It's, yeah, it should be.
Yeah, so, and all the subparts, they have the same, up to some kind of skewness or whatever. I mean, yeah. If I see it also has 8 arms, so everything.
That's right, yeah, absolutely.
You would never find anything with like higher, like a 10-fold thing,
inside the power 8 Mandelbulb.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That kind of does kind of make sense. Absolutely. You can see that even the shape here. That's kind of like a small detail of the larger picture. Let's just zoom into that. Just perhaps that shape there. So it's kind of got copies of itself, kind of. Not exactly the same as the original Mandelbrot.
The 2D Mandelbrot has a fairly simple description, doesn't it? All the points inside are the ones that go to 0 something. Are they eventually under consideration, or are they the ones that go up to infinity? I can't remember.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
The points inside the 2D Mandelbrot
Yes.
set, under that map of z goes to z squared plus c, eventually go off to infinity, do they? The whole lot, or they all go to 0?
Okay. Many of them will go off to infinity, but those are the ones which aren't part of the Mandelbrot set.
Oh, right.
The ones which are part of the Mandelbrot set, they might go to 0,
Or
they could go in a cycle forever. They kind of, I was going to come to that later actually, or they could home to a particular point.
Well, I don't mind much whether they're inside or outside, as long as I know where them. If we got a similar, simple description of this structure.
Yeah, I'll explain all that later. If you can come back to me on that later, then I'll explain more. But yeah, generally, either it goes off to infinity, like you say, or will go to a certain point, or go in a cycle. And so, actually, just before okay, I added lights to this one. That was fun. Took me ages. But yeah, good lights in that. And these are a very different one. Again, this one's inside. Wow. I call this one Hell Froze Over. So it looks a bit like hell, but it's frozen and nothing's moving anymore. Wow. Yes, quite a different design there. That's part of the spinal. And of course, here's the basic formula that the Mandelbrot is. So now we can talk about what you were looking at. And just before we move on, it seems very simple formula, and yet obviously there's a little bit more to it than meets the eye than just that formula, because that makes it almost a bit too simple to get a number. Mind you, in the context, it's written in the context of complex numbers. So if you understand complex numbers, then you'll understand how to create a number quite easily. However, this is Wikipedia's definition. Well, technically, the Mandelbrot set is the set of values you see in the complex plane field, which will blah 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 blah. That could be quite tricky to understand for some. So there's an easier way, a visual way to interpret, which makes it easy to understand. We're going, of course, back to the 2D Mandelbrot, because I want to show you what I did from the Mandelbulb. And I know we're running a bit short of time. There's a bit more that I want to show you. So I'm going to try and go through this quickly. But maybe many of you will understand how to create Mandelbrot shape anyway. How many of you would know how to, given a computer? Okay, a few there. Okay, a few would know how to create a Mandelbrot shape. Let's see, for the rest of you, let's see if we can very quickly give you at least an idea of how to do it. So this is a Mandelbrot. You've got a graph there. On a graph, which ends at sort of -1/2, 1.5, and begins at -1/2, ends at 1/2. So if you create a graph, that's where the Mandelbrot would be placed on the graph. So of course, a monitor is a graph really. It's made up of lots of pixels, millions of them. So essentially, we could see these little black squares. I don't know if you can see it back there, but if you have a look at these black squares, you could count these as pixels, and you say, "Oh, let's check that square out. Is that part of the Mandelbrot set? Yes or no?" If it's no, colour it black. If it's yes, colour it white, or any other colour, or you know, any colour really. So it's very simple in principle, but the idea is to say, well, then how do you what do you do for each pixel to determine whether it's part of the set or not part of the set? So I'm going to be quick because of time, but basically what you do is, this is just a circle of unit 1 radius. And what you can do is you can take any point to see if it's part of the Mandelbrot set. So we could take this point here, where the little, can you see the little white arrow there is? And then what you can do is you, first of all, say, well, let's double the angle. So we go 1, 2, 3, and then you go 1, 2, 3 again. So we end up here. So it's probably best, to be honest, if I show you this in my paint program, which I had opened before, but it crashed. So I'm just going to have to quickly load it from here. Where are we? Where's that? I think I can do it. Oh, there we go. Well, there's one of them. Okay, never mind. Okay, so we'll go back to where we were before. And basically, we double the angle, and then you square the magnitude. So magnitude is, of course, just the distance from the centre. So we rotate it, and then we say, oh, that's about, for the sake of argument, we'll say it's about, we've gone 1, 2, where did we start? See, 2 lines of the paint program. Start from here, that's 1, 2, 3, and then we go 1, 2, 3 again, so we're on this vertical line now. We'll say we're in the centre of the vertical line. Magnitude there will be a half, because this is unit 1 radius. And then you square the magnitude. So you say, what's half times a half? Well, it's a quarter. So you say, so we go from here now to this point here. So we've kind of shrunk towards the centre. By the way, just quickly, if we were outside the circle, it would grow away from the centre. But because we're inside the circle, we're sort of, when you do a half by a half, obviously that gets less, not more. So it goes towards the centre. And by the way, just to recap, this is still to check the point that we've got here. Fortunately, this was supposed to be in the paint program, but it crashed, so I'm having to improvise here. But basically, imagine we're still checking this pixel to see if it's part of the Mandelbrot set. So anyway, so we square the distance, and then finally we add the initial vector of the pixel. So the vector, this is the original point, so we add that vector from here to here. We move that in the equivalent way. So what we've done, very briefly, is we've gone from, I can probably very quickly just use a darker colour. So we've gone, pretend this is the centre. Well, approximately centre, so we're checking out this point. We double the angle, which gets to this blue point here. And then we square the magnitude, we get to here, and then we add the initial vector. This is the initial vector going from here to here. So then finally, we go, instead of from there to there, we go from here to here. Okay, this is all very rough. It's not accurate. Computers do it more accurate than I've just done it. But you can see this is one iteration as well. So what we do is instead of saying, so anyway, that's our second point now. We scrap these two here. So just to recap, we rotate, we double the rotation. Let's try again. We double the rotation from here to here, square the magnitude, add the original vector, and you get to this point. And then you go on.
Sorry, because we're still in the circle,